Today we are going to bring to light the latest of the diffusion models. And I have to say, reading through these new papers, specifically the Matryoshka Diffusion Framework from Apple and the research on rectified flow, it really feels like we're watching the engine of creativity get rebuilt while the car is still moving.
It is a fascinating time. It feels like we're shifting from just, does it work?
Yeah.
To how do we make it elegant?
Exactly. And I think before we get into the heavy technical lifting, we sort of need to shatter an illusion. When I type astronaut riding a horse on Mars into an AI generator, I still have this mental image of a little robot artist inside my GPU, wearing a little beret, picking up a digital paintbrush, and starting to sketch.
A robot with the beret, yeah. I love that image.
Right.
But it's completely wrong. If you want to understand where the field is going, especially with these new Matryoshka models, you have to just delete the idea of drawing from your mind.
Okay, so if it's not drawing, what is it doing?
It's restoring.
Restoring? You mean like fixing a damaged fresco or something?
Precisely. Imagine I handed you a television screen that was tuned to a dead channel.
Okay.
Just pure, chaotic white noise. Static. And I told you, hey, I promise you, buried underneath all that static is a masterpiece painting of a dog. I need you to wipe away the static and find it.
I'd probably tell you that you need to get your eyes checked. It's just static.
To a human, yes. But a diffusion model, it's trained to be the ultimate noise detective. It looks at that random chaos, and it essentially hallucinates a structure. It says, I think I see the curve of an ear here, or this cluster of pixels looks a bit like fur. And then, mathematically, it subtracts the static, step by step.
So it's not creating from scratch. It's reversing the destruction of data.
Reversing destruction. That's a perfect way to put it. It's the core of denoising diffusion probabilistic models, or DDPMs. But here's the catch, and this is what leads us to our topic today. If this detective is so smart, why is it so incredibly hard to make a big image?
High resolution, you mean?
Right. 4K, 8K. We can generate little thumbnails all day long, but if you want something billboard-sized, the computation costs don't just go up, they explode.
And that's because the detective has to solve the crime for every single pixel.
Every single pixel. Millions of times. A 1024 by 2024 image has over 1 million pixels, and if you're running a complex neural network on every single one of those for, say, 100 steps, well, you've heard your laptop fans spin up.
It sounds like it's preparing for takeoff.
Exactly. And that is the resolution bottleneck. So today we're looking at two very different philosophies on how to break through it. On one side, we have this new contender from Apple researchers, Matryoshka Diffusion Models, MDM.
Which implies Russian nesting dolls.
Layers nested within layers. It's a very, very clever architectural trick. And then on the other side, we have the heavyweight champion that's currently dominating the scaling laws, rectified flow transformers.
So we have Russian dolls versus a straight line.
Essentially, yeah. It's a battle of geometry.
Okay, before we crack open the dolls, let's ground this noise detective idea a bit more, because the Apple paper makes a big deal about joint denoising. And to get that, we need to understand how the model even learns to denoise in the first place. How does it know the difference between static and dog?
It learns by destroying things. This is called the forward process. And it's actually the easiest part of machine learning because it requires zero intelligence. It's just math.
Oh, so?
You take a pristine image, let's say a photo of a cat from your training data, and you add a tiny layer of Gaussian noise to it. Just random statistical scatter.
So this looks a little grainy.
A little grainy. Then you do it again and again. You might do this 1,000 times. By the end of the process, the cat is gone. The image is statistically indistinguishable from pure random noise. We have successfully destroyed the information.
Okay. We broke it. Good job, team.
But because we broke it systematically, we have a receipt. We know exactly what noise was added at each step. So now we train a neural network, classically an architecture called a UNet, to look at the noisy version and predict just the noise that was added in that last step.
So the UNet isn't looking for the cat, it's looking for the noise.
Exactly. It predicts the noise so it can subtract it. If you can subtract the noise, you reveal the image. But here's the nuance, the thing that separates the pros from the amateurs. The detective needs to know what time it is.
Time? You mean like, hurry up, the user's waiting?
No, process time. The model has to know. Are we at step 999 where the image is total chaos? Or are we at step 5 where the image is basically done and we're just polishing?
Ah, I see. Because the job is different.
Completely different. At the beginning, you need a sledgehammer to remove massive amounts of noise. At the end, you need a scalpel. The model uses something called sinusoidal features, positional embeddings, to understand where it is in that timeline.
Okay, so we have a time-traveling detective with a sledgehammer and a scalpel. But like you said, doing this for a million pixels is heavy.
Yeah.
So how has the industry been handling this until now? Because I've seen DELI 2, I've seen Stable Diffusion. They make pretty good pictures.
They do, but they use workarounds. They cheat a little bit.
Okay.
There are two main ways to cheat. The first one is what I'd call the relay race method, but technically it's known as cascaded models.
Like DELI 2 uses.
Yes, and Google's Imagen. They don't try to generate a big image at once. They generate a tiny, low-resolution thumbnail, maybe 64 by 64 pixels.
Which is fast.
Very fast. Then they pass that blurry thumbnail to a second model, a super-resolution model, which is trained just to upscale it. And maybe a third model upscales that one.
So it's a chain of command.
It is. But think about the game Telephone. If the first model messes up, say, the cat has 3 eyes in the thumbnail, the second model doesn't know that's a mistake. It just thinks, my job is to make this 3-eyed cat look high definition.
Right. Garbage in, high-res, garbage out.
Precisely. This is called exposure bias, the errors compound. The second method, and this is what Stable Diffusion uses, is latent diffusion. Instead of working with pixels, they compress the image into a latent space.
A zip file.
A mathematical zip file, yes. They do all the denoising in that compressed space, which is much smaller, and then decode it at the end. It's efficient, but it's lossy. You're throwing away data to make it fit.
So there's a ceiling on the quality.
There is. There's an upper bound on how perfect the details can be because you aren't working with the raw pixels.
So we have the relay race, which risks compounding errors, or the zip file, which loses detail. And this is where the Apple researchers come in with Matryoshka Diffusion. They claim they can work in pixel space, no compression, and still be efficient.
How? By using that nesting doll architecture, they call it a nested UNet.
Okay, break that down for us.
So imagine a neural network where the machinery for generating a small 64-pixel image is literally inside the machinery for the 1024-pixel image. It's not separate models like the relay race.
It's all one model.
It's one single model with different zoom levels built into its own brain.
So does it generate the small one first, wait for it to finish, and then expand it?
No, and this is the joint denoising breakthrough. It processes multiple resolutions simultaneously. The features and parameters it learns for the small scale are shared directly with the large scale.
Wait, hold on. Simultaneously?
Yeah.
But wouldn't that just, doesn't that require a supercomputer?
You'd think so, but the real efficiency comes from how they train it.
Okay.
They use something called progressive training.
Which means starting small.
Exactly. When they start training the model, they only show it small, blurry images. This is computationally cheap. The model learns the basics. Sky goes up, grass goes down, faces have 2 eyes. It learns the composition.
It learns the broad strokes first.
Right. Then, once it masters that inner doll, they unlock the next layer. They start adding higher resolution images to the training schedule. But because the model already understands the structure from the small layer, the big layer only has to learn the fine details.
That feels incredibly intuitive.
Yes.
It's like how you learn to paint, right?
Yeah.
You don't start by detailing the eyelashes. You sketch the head first.
It's so efficient. In fact, they trained this MDM model on the CC12M dataset conceptual captions 12 million.
For anyone who doesn't know, 12 million images. That sounds like a lot.
In the world of modern AI, that is tiny. It's nothing. The big labs are scraping billions of images. The fact that MDM got such strong results and even demonstrated what's called zero-shot generalization on such a small data set is remarkable.
Zero-shot generalization. So it could create things it had never actually seen before.
Correct. It wasn't just memorizing, it was understanding concepts.
And for the coders listening, they actually released the code and the checkpoints on GitHub at Apple MNADM so you can poke around under the hood yourself. But I want to visualize this nesting process.
Yeah.
The paper describes a specific output. A deer Matryoshka doll in Japanese kimono, super details, extreme realistic, 8K.
It's a great visual. When you look at the model working, you can actually see the outputs at 64 pixels, 128, 256, all the way up, all generating in the same time. At that bottom layer, the 64-pixel version, the deer is just a reddish-brown blob. You can barely tell what it is.
But the structure is there.
The structure is there, and as you look up this stack of resolutions, the pattern on the kimono resolves, the antlers separate, the eyes get that little glossy reflection. It's sharpening the focus across the whole stack simultaneously.
That's really cool. But they didn't stop at still images. This is the part that got me. They applied this to video.
And video is notoriously hard because video is just images plus time, and time is a cruel variable.
Right. If you just generate 24 random images of a cat, it's going to flicker and warp all over the place.
Exactly. You need temporal consistency. MDM handles this by treating time as just another dimension of the nesting. They take that inner, low-res doll and add temporal attention layers,
And the example they showed was pouring milk into black coffee.
which is a classic fluid dynamics nightmare for AI. Swirling liquids are so hard to predict. But by nesting the time dimension, the model learns the movement of the liquid at a low resolution first. It figures out the physics of the swirl on that small scale.
And then the outer layers just paint in the bubbles and the details.
Precisely. Because the weights are shared, the high-resolution layer knows exactly how the milk is moving. It's sharing a brain with the low-resolution layer.
That seems so much smarter than the relay race, where the upscaler is just guessing based on a blurry video.
It preserves the semantic meaning. The model knows this is milk pouring, not just these are white pixels moving left.
So MDM brings pixel space back from the dead. It's elegant, it's efficient. But, okay, we have to look at the other side of the ring. You mentioned rectified flow transformers. This is the tech behind things like Stable Diffusion 3. What's the difference in philosophy here?
If MDM is about architectural elegance nesting things, rectified flow is about mathematical purity. It challenges the diffusion part itself. Remember the drunk walk?
The random noise path we talked about earlier.
Right. Standard diffusion takes a curved, chaotic path from noise to a clean image. It sort of wanders around the mathematical forest before it finds the solution. Rectified flow asks, why are we taking the scenic route?
It wants a shortcut.
It wants a straight line. It tries to force the model to find a perfectly straight path between the noise distribution and the image distribution.
So instead of stumbling through the woods, you bulldoze a highway directly to the destination.
Theoretically, yes. It simplifies the problem. If the path is straighter, you need fewer steps to get there. It's faster. But the other big shift in these models is the transformer part, specifically the MMDIT architecture. That's the multimodal diffusion transformer.
Multimodal usually means text and image working together.
Correct. In older models, the text prompt, what you typed, and the image noise were kind of mashed together in the neural network very early on. But, language and visual pixels are fundamentally different data types. They're different languages.
Mashing them together sounds messy.
It creates interference. MNDIT says, let's keep them separate. It uses two separate sets of weights. One brain processes the text, another brain processes the image.
So they don't talk to each other.
Oh, they do, but they talk via attention mechanisms. It's like they're passing notes back and forth, but they kept their own processing space, and this drastically improves prompt adherence.
Meaning if I ask for a red cat on a blue chair eating green sushi, it actually gets the colors right.
Exactly. The text brain ensures the concepts are clear before the image brain has to paint them. And the researchers back this up with a massive scaling study. They took this architecture up to 8 billion parameters.
8 billion, that's huge compared to the Apple study.
It's an order of magnitude larger, and they found that the scaling laws hold true. The bigger the model, the lower the validation loss, and crucially, the more that human raters liked the images.
So brute force works. Bigger is better.
In this architecture, yes. But when you get that big and you train on that much data, you run into a critical problem. It's called regurgitation.
That sounds unpleasant.
It's a technical failure of generalization. If a model sees a specific image too many times during training, it doesn't learn the concept, it just memorizes the file. The paper mentions a specific example, a motivational poster with a bird that says, go big or go home.
Oh, I think I've seen that poster in a break room somewhere.
Probably. And the model saw it thousands of times. So if you prompted it for a bird, it wouldn't generate a new bird. It would just spit out that exact poster.
It's not learning, that's just copying.
It's overfitting. And it's a problem for quality. If I ask for a bird, I want a new bird. So the researchers used a technique called SSCD, self-supervised copy detection.
What does that do?
It's a way of scrubbing the dataset. It looks for duplicates, even if they aren't exact matches. Maybe one is cropped or black and white. It finds them and removes them.
Deduplication.
Exactly. By removing the duplicates, you force the model to see the go big or go home bird maybe only once or twice. It can't memorize it. So to solve the prompt bird, it has to actually learn the general concept of what a bird looks like.
It forces the model to be creative instead of a photocopier.
Precisely. It turns out data hygiene is just as important as the model architecture.
So we have two very different visions of the future here. In one corner, Matryoshka Diffusion. It's elegant, it's efficient, it operates in pixel space, and uses this clever nesting to save compute. It seems perfect for like consumer hardware or real-time applications.
And in the other corner, you have rectified flow and MMDIT, the massive scale approach. Straight lines, separate brains for test and image. It excels at complex instructions and high polish, provided you have the massive compute to run it.
So, who wins? Is the future nested or rectified?
I think the answer is probably yes.
What both?
Yeah, I think we're heading toward a convergence.
A Frankenstein model.
The ultimate engine. Imagine a nested UNet architecture like MDM, so you get that multi-resolution efficiency. But you train it using the rectified flow matching technique to get the straightest, fastest path. And you use the split-stream text processing of MMDIT to understand the prompts perfectly.
You take the chassis from one, the engine from another, and the transmission from a third.
Exactly. The goal is real-time, 4K generation on your laptop. MDM shows us we don't need a server farm if we're smart about the architecture. Rectified flow shows us how to optimize the math.
It is wild to think about how fast this is moving. We went from it's drawing a picture to it's denoising a latent space to it's nesting resolutions like Russian dolls in the span of, what, 3 years?
It moves at breakneck speed. And honestly, it leaves me with this lingering question, one that I find myself sort of staring at the ceiling thinking about late at night.
Oh, lay the existential thought on us.
Well, think about what we just described.
Hmm.
These models are taking pure entropy Gaussian static, total chaos, and mathematically reversing it into order and structure. They're finding the signal in the noise.
Reversing entropy, that's big.
It is. So are these models teaching us something fundamental about how reality is structured? You know, is our visual reality just a signal hidden in noise that we are constantly decoding?
Right.
Or are these machines just becoming really, really good statistical liars?
That is heavy. The idea that restoring an image is actually an act of creating order from chaos. I'm going to be thinking about that one for a while.
It's the ultimate restoration project.
Indeed. Well, on that note, before we dissolve into static ourselves, we're going to wrap up. We've put the links to the Apple MDM paper and the rectified flow study in the show notes. You genuinely need to see the deer in a kimono progression to get the nesting concept. It's a real visual treat. Thanks for listening, and keep diving deep.